You. So I noticed on YouTube over the past couple of months that it's become more and more popular for people to do kind of vlog posting, where they post videos, basically posting about their life. And I like, talking about how they're homeless or they're unemployed or they work like a dead end job or they're poor and just stuff like that. And I decided because I want to get started, like doing social media and trying to get my life started that way, like I would just chime into the conversation about how I've been unemployed for 2 years after uni. So to give you some like context of how I got to this point, the backstory is I got all A's in my exams and I went to a top university. Like I'm in Scotland, so I went to a top uni here, graduated in the grade that I was expected to graduate at. Like people would say it was worth going to uni for because you can easily like fail out of uni, right? But I got what I was expected to get, which is good. And then I didn't get any like private graduate programs out of uni, which was kind of unfortunate for me. But I done everything I was expected to do at that point. So with that, I had to move back home. I ended up getting employed with my local government in the communications department. And then after communications, after a year of that, I've just been job searching ever since. So we're in 2025 now, and I left you know, the program was up in 2023 after a year. So, why? Why am I doing this video? I'm doing this video because just to get my own thoughts out there and to kind of show people like people can relate to it. Like there's got to be people out there like me and they can resonate with it. Or if anyone wants to add any advice or help in the comments, which is really sad. I didn't think I was going to be appealing for help on YouTube like 3 years after I graduated. But hey, this is where we're at. So I'll just go into why. There's four main reasons as to why I think this is the case. And by the way, one of them is not my hair. I know you're gonna say your hair is a problem, you're unemployed. See when you have blonde hair, your hair is very, very light. It's basically hollow. So I just spray it up. I just, put my head down, spray it all in hairspray, and it's lifted up. And it just looks like I've had a perm. It looks good, right? I don't have a photo, because I'm using my phone to record, but when I go to interviews, my hair is up. It's not the full fringe, which I think looks quite cool. But anyway, so the first one is the reason why I think I've been unemployed for so long, the difficulty in finding a job, was because I believe I didn't get any real substantial experience during my graduate program. So it was a graduate program in communications, marketing, tourism, events, and we never did any videos, which is a huge thing I wanted to do. Like I would have loved to have done videos where like we could engage with local businesses, local organizations, do a spotlight on them, do little interviews with them, like, hey, why did you start X charity? Like, what do you do here? What's it like operating in this local area? Stuff like that. Do like videos at the events that we would host and do sneak peeks and collaborate with museums and that, because we've got like one museum here, like one or two museums, very, very small, and just be resourceful and use what we had to the best of our ability. Unfortunately, what I discovered is your boss doesn't care about, basically, I'm not sure if it's just my own experience, but it seems to be right that your boss doesn't care about what you want to do. And I forgot to turn my light on, 2 seconds. There. Your boss doesn't care about what you want to do. Your boss only cares about what you can do for them. Like, how can you achieve what they want to do? And most of the time, that involves not increasing your workload. So I get why we never did any video content, because video content had never been done before. So now, if we were to start doing video content then, it would basically increase the standard of work that's expected of everybody in that department, and maybe they don't want to go in front of the camera, which they didn't need to do it, because we did have meetings about this, and it was always shut down with a bunch of different excuses and whatnot. But basically, it just increases our workload, and it can be difficult getting people to go in front of the camera or who wants to do video work, right? Just because you want to do it doesn't mean everybody else wants to do it. Not saying that's the reason I didn't get experience in anything else, but other than that, like, to be honest, when you're having to write like an application or a CV, it really does look like I just did like a typical admin job with some posting on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram sometimes. Because TikTok wasn't allowed because it's like a public body. So what? So we didn't really like do a lot of experience that way, which I think when you're doing communications in the modern like world, it is important to do that. But hey, they didn't want to do it, so that's that. I've got a script here. I'm not sure if I already said this, but I've never done videos before, never done them, so I know people have a script, so just a light thing. So if I refer to this, you know what I'm referring to. The second reason why I didn't, like, I think I'm unemployed is because, okay, so I didn't have a lack of experience doing video work. Why didn't I plug up the lack of experience doing videos at home like now? And it's quite a complicated answer. It's in two parts. One, I was living in a state where, like, okay, so I don't have a good home life, and my family don't support me, like, in my career. They don't support me doing social media or doing videos, or anything like that. And they basically said that I can't live here and do videos. So they're basically threatening homelessness on me. And if I was to do any videos, I felt kind of scared that like, even now, like, as I sit in front of this camera, I do kind of feel like I'm putting myself at risk of that. And you don't want to like argue with people who you're living with and you're dependent on for housing. So in my mind, I was like, okay, well, I don't need to do videos anyway because I'm going to move out, because I was trying to find a place to stay where I wanted to live, and I was thinking like, okay, well, I'm about to move out because I was doing flat viewings quite a lot. I'll just do them when I move out, which never happened. So that was a big reason why I didn't actually plug up that experience. And when I was doing my job searching, because I haven't just been doing marketing and communications, I was also kind of thinking like, okay, well, I'll just like decrease the quality of the job and reduce it down to just doing like admin stuff, which I had plenty of experience doing anyway. So that was the reason why I didn't really like plug up the experience at home, because I thought I was living in a state of like temporary, like, oh, I'm gonna like be able to do this soon, so I don't need to do it now, which never happened. And again, I wasn't allowed to do it at home. It's easy saying things like just do it, but the only reason why I'm doing it now is because it's been like 2 years of me being unemployed, so I need to get a start somehow, and this is my start, right? There isn't going to be a better way to start than now. And I think they would even concede, because like, I don't really like talking to them about it because it pisses them off. But I think if I was to say like, I need to start doing videos now, it's been 2 years of me being unemployed, like, let me try, they'd probably concede and say yeah. Still keeping this a secret from them though, they don't know I'm doing this. But yeah. So third reason is why I think I've been unemployed for so long is because I think my degree subject was pretty weak. I did business studies, and even though it was from a good university, for me personally, the reason why I was confident in doing business studies is because in my mind, I was doing a prudent, sensible degree that would allow me to get into any industry on the base level, and I would always have steady employment in my mind. Because if you think about it, from every industry, from like tech to arts to public to private to engineering, everything, sports, they always need to have people doing either communications or operations or admin or just like the background functional stuff that doesn't require a lot of specialization with a degree. Because if you think about it in my mind as well, if someone does like an engineering degree or a biology degree or a chemistry degree and they try and they apply for like an operations, communications, or admin role in a company, it's almost like you would think from the employer would be like, oh, they wouldn't be a very good fit, or they might leave to go and do a career that's actually relevant to their degree. So, yeah, that's what I was expecting. But unfortunately, that's not the case. There's actually not a lot of security in jobs. It's not easy to get a job in communications or even admin. Like you think it would be easier the lower the bar is, but it's not. And it just seems to me that it's going to be hard and going to be tough and impossible to get a job in whatever you're doing. So might as well do a hard degree that's commanding and you can get specialized in. And if you can't get that specialist job you've done with your degree, you can drop down and just compete with people who are trying to get like the unspecialized roles. Because I didn't learn anything in my business degree compared to like someone who does engineering, who knows how, like, who knows the principles of how to make a bridge stand up or like not sink into the water. Like I didn't learn anything like that. I had a great. I love my time at uni. It was amazing, but yeah, my whole strategy of like, hey, it's a nice prudent degree. It's kind of easy. You'll be able to get a job, and it will pay you enough to move out and live your life. Because I'm all about life. I'm all about living my life and enjoying myself. I'm not all about, I'm not a career orientated person. I'm more like fun life, relationships orientated. And I kind of like work to live, not live to work. Mm. But I haven't really been doing much living or working for the past 2 years, the past 3 years to be honest. So there's that, and the whole idea um, was basically kind of like, yeah, might as well just. The thing is with a specialized degree as well, like what I said before, like you can apply for a specialist role, and if you don't get them, you can go down. Whereas I don't really have that specialist role with a business studies degree. Like I'm kind of forced into like unspecialized roles or ones that have loads of competition. Because some of the roles I apply for have like over like 100 plus applicants on them, and that's only like the threshold they let you see. Like who knows how many applicants apply for each role. So um, another reason why I'm unemployed is basically this is the biggest one, and I think some people can really relate to this. Is my location is a problem, and this is like the biggest. This is what I believe my biggest problem is, and it's the reason why I'm feeling so hopeless right now. Is that my location is a problem. I live in Scotland, which is fine, but I live in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, and by the middle of nowhere, I basically mean that for me to get into the city, which is where all the opportunities are, I need to take a 20 to 25 minute bus then get on a train that is about 50, 55 minutes, and that's not including any internal transport that I would need to take once I'm in the city, like the subway or another overhead train to get to different parts of it for a job or anything else. Now, I've lived here my life, right? My whole life in the middle of nowhere, other than my 4 years at uni, which I loved, that were in a city. So, see the idea of traveling, like a walk, bus, walk, train, and then like just say I had to take the subway to get to Glasgow Uni, for example. I need to then walk, subway, walk. So that's like 8 steps, 7, 8 steps. And for me, that doesn't seem extreme. But see if, because I've lived here my whole life and that's just life. You know, you live in the middle of nowhere, you need to commute. But when you are a city person, and not to use that term, I just saw that online. If you're a city person, that is a huge problem and that sounds insane. Because if you think about it, for them, like a normal commute for them is like 20 minutes, 15 minutes even. So if I'm trying to get to, so if I'm trying to appeal to them in a job that's based in the city, which is where I want to live, and the reason why I want to live in a city is because there really isn't anything here. Like, I miss my life in the city. Like, I miss the spontaneous nature of city life. I miss being able to walk everywhere I want. I miss like the sense of anonymity and just even just like not having to live with my parents and everything like that. So that's why I'm so hell bent on applying for jobs that are based in the city, because it's not like those jobs outside of the city, right? There really aren't. Like, yeah, there's ones like I go to the welfare office, and obviously you need to apply for jobs there. Well, they make you apply. They tell you to apply for jobs. So I have to apply for jobs to get my welfare, and you can apply for supermarket jobs locally or bar jobs locally, but there's way more people here who genuinely want to work those jobs, and they've worked them before, they're older than you, and they want to be there, and they don't have a degree. So there's none of that stigma around that person's going to leave, because they're going to probably stay in a job for a long time. At the end of the day, I don't want to work at a supermarket, so they can probably tell that, the fact that I've got a degree. Anyway, so this is why I'm bringing city people up and living in the city and applying for that, because when I'm applying for jobs in the city, it probably looks absolutely crazy and unrealistic that this person wants to work here when they live so far away. And that's really frustrating for me, because I'm very happy commuting in. Like, that's my problem, right? I tell the guy at the welfare office all the time, that's my issue. If I have to get on a, there's also a direct bus route as well, so it doesn't need to be bus, train, and all that. It can just be a direct bus link. That's like an hour and 40 minutes, which sounds crazy and probably sounds mental to the people watching this video, but to me, that's my problem. And it's passive like travel. Is this still on? Yeah, it's still on. It's passive travel for me. Because, yeah, it's an hour and 40 minutes with all the stops it's got to take, this bus. But I can just sit there, I can read, I can write in my diary, I can go on my phone because you can charge, you know, they have little charging ports on the bus. I can do anything, right? I can browse the internet, I can draw a little sketchbook, who knows? And I can just sleep. I can sleep for an hour and 30 minutes, that's fine. That's on my seat. Because it's the last stop I need to take anyway. So why not just... Anyway, for me, it's fine. Even though you need to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, like 5:30 and that, it's still fine to get in for 9 o'clock. See, when you're trying to appeal to an employer in the city, they think that is just absolutely mental. And I have had interviews during my first year, unemployed, I did get like a number of interviews, and they would mention things like that at the interview, like, "Oh, we noticed you commuted in from like quite far away today," and things like, "Do you think you could, reliably commute here 5 days a week?" And it's like, "Yeah, absolutely, pleasure for me." And sometimes I do tell them that, yeah, it's not the most pleasant thing in the world to commute for like an hour and 30, hour and 40 minutes. But for me, it's all about moving to the city. So it's only going to be a temporary thing. And then I'll be able to rent a room in a flat slash apartment. And I'll just be like everybody else. So it's only going to be for like 2 or 3 months tops anyway. But I'm, an hour and 40 minutes compared to an average city person's commute of like 15, 20 minutes at most. They were kind of looking at me like I'm absolutely crazy. And I know you're kind of thinking like, okay, so why didn't you spoke about renting a room in the city when you're employed. Like, why didn't you do that during your year with a local gov? And the reason why I never did that is because I did go to flat viewings every Saturday um, in the city. And I swear I did that for a year, like a full year. And the landlords did not like that one bit. When they found out, because they would ask me, talk to them, they got on really well with them. Like, I'm someone you can get on with. Like, it's really, really easy to talk to me and get along with me. These landlords, see, when they would ask me where I work, I would tell them where I work, which is in my local area, and they'd be like, "Where's that?" And then I would just tell them, like, "How are you going to get to work if you live here, if you rent here?" And then I would tell them, because I worked it all out with like the overhead trains and that. And for me, that's okay. Like, getting a 7:30 train in the morning to take me basically directly to my work is okay. Yeah, it's still about an hour, like 50 minutes, but that's okay for me. Because if I take it at 7:30, I get in around, like, in that place by 20 past 8, and then I can like walk there and then just like chill out, and I won't have to do it. Because by that point, I only had to go in once a week in the first 6 months, and then it was once every 2 weeks for the latter 6 months of the placement, the graduate program with the local gov. So I only have to do it like once a week at most. But landlords thought that was just mad. They really didn't like that. And they were even saying things like, "Why don't you just like find a place like closer to where you work?" And then I would sort of tell them that, well, I'm actually planning on like moving here like full term. I wanting to like I think it would help me a lot more if I live here and I can say that I'm based here, because you're already having reservations with me working there. You can imagine trying to find a job in the city when I don't live here. And they just wouldn't be feeling me at all. So that basically sunk me completely. Trying to move out when I was employed. And another thing about my location is, see, even if I was the best candidate for these jobs, being so far away from the city where I want to work, and where I basically have to work because there isn't a lot of jobs outside the city, it's very hard to justify hiring me. Think about it. Why would you hire me? Because I have to travel in an hour and 30 minutes by bus, basically an hour and 40 minutes by bus, basically, because I need to do it in the middle of the morning. The trains don't run that early because I can't walk to the train station. So like the buses that takes me to the train station doesn't operate that early for me to get there at a reasonable time. So think about it from the employer's perspective. I don't know why I'm like tongue tied about this. Think about it from the employer's perspective. We can either hire this guy that has an hour and 40 commute time, which basically translates to being unreliable if he can even get here. And it's all about it's all a bit weird, or we can hire someone who literally lives 20 minutes away. Because it's kind of like you're willing to travel an hour and 40 minutes for this entry level minimum wage job. And I'm like, yeah, sounds good to me. I understand why that weirds them out, and it just has like an air of desperation to it. And I suppose I am desperate now because it's been like 3 years since graduation. I'm totally miserable and I just lost everything in my life moving to the middle of nowhere. And maybe it comes across that way, but I do argue with them that it's only for a temporary arrangement and then I'm going to be like everyone else. But still, it's hard to justify hiring me when you can just hire someone who lives close by. Because I mean, how much, like, it doesn't bother me that a lot of my wages would be eaten up by travel costs, but to them it is. So let's see what else is on the script. Yeah. 2 weeks ago by that point. Well, I've got to get better at writing the scripts. Give me a second. I can't even see with my hair. It just has been. Yeah, that's basically it. I just rub it there, desperation to it. So where am I at now? So basically, I'm just lost. To be honest, I'm just totally lost in life. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know how I'm going to go through life. I don't know how I'm going to get a job. I don't know how I'm going to do so many different things. It's been so long. I kind of felt like 3 years on from uni that I would be moved out. I would have a regular income, a regular job, full-time employment, like kind of like communications or operations or something. I don't really care what I'm doing as long as I'm earning enough money to move out and I live where I want to live. Like, where am I at now? For me, I don't want to work here because it means continuing my shit life in the middle of nowhere, being a rural retard with no opportunities, with nothing around. And I don't want to sound like a walkable cities meme enthusiast. However, I have lived in a city. I do miss my old life. Like I want to go back and I miss my old life. I want to go back and I want to have the experience where I can just walk wherever I want to go. I can just make plans with people and meet up with them 10 minutes away, like a 10-minute walk away. I want to go walks in the park just by leaving my place of residence and going there and being there within 5 minutes. I want to go and do regular grocery shops with my backpack and I want to go on dates. Like, I haven't gone on dates. I haven't gone on dates, obviously, but not near the amount of dates I used to go on. And I'm not ran through. I don't fuck on my dates at all. But still, like I just miss this life that I used to have. Like now, I live in the middle of nowhere, quite disconnected from everything. There's no parks nearby. I need to get like the bus to a park for a walk. Are you for real? Like, I don't want to do that. That's like £6 to do that. No. And I know people are like, oh, you're in the middle of nowhere. Like chuds, like incel chuds would be like, oh, you live in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful in Scotland. And yeah, it's gorgeous and it's really, really nice and have a beautiful view of the mountains, beautiful blue snow-capped peaks with the water and everything. It's gorgeous here. But I just don't want to do that right now in my life. And it's like, you can only do a country walk so many times before it gets boring and you don't want to do it. And you also miss the small things in life, like the anonymity of the city. Like, I don't want to have to leave my house every single time. And it's like, I meet people who I knew, like my family, old family friends, people from my old work, people from school. It's just awkward. It's weird. And I feel like I've moved back in life. I feel like I've moved backwards in life. I feel like I went from like moving up and moving on to now my life has shrunk down to nothing and I'm back in my childhood bedroom in the middle of nowhere. So I feel really frustrated, like kind of frustrated, I guess. And a huge part of it is like uh, my bad family and home life, and I tried to get on good terms with them. But even when I was employed, they were pretty horrible. And like, even when I was employed, they were pretty horrible. And it's also kind of like I was just dating someone for 4 months there, and they were based in the city, and I kind of feel so much more lost than I would have did before. And I wasn't envious, but the feeling, the way I feel like talking to him and so many people like him and seeing people be successful online on social media is kind of like I wish I could share in that success. Like I wish I could be successful with you. I wish I could live that life with you. And I kind of realized that the lack of a job is really holding me back quite severely. I know you're kind of thinking like, how can it hold? How could you not realize that? Like, obviously, I knew that and I was aware of that, and I've been applying for jobs for 2 years now. And by the way, they say my CV is fine at the welfare office. It's been reviewed. I don't need to go to any like CV classes that teach you how to do interviews or anything. I got a beautiful suit, everything like that. It's like he at the start of when we were dating, he really liked. He told me that he loves going to cafes and having a coffee and a pastry on Sunday mornings, and he would love someone to do that with regularly. So that was an invitation for me to do it, and I said, "Well, I don't live in the city, remember? So I need to get up at like 5, 6 o'clock for me to be there with you in your area of the city and travel like an hour, 40 minutes minimum to get there." I know what you're thinking. God's sake, Y2K, like, why are you doing this? Like, you should have just did it. I see with my old life, knowing that, like, I kind of feel like I shouldn't have to do this. Like, I shouldn't have to, like, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get a coffee with someone. Like, I just really shouldn't. And that basically was causing issues in our, like, dating because he said, and this relates to the point I made earlier about employers not wanting to hire me because of the distance and the investment, like the investment in me trying to travel in. He said, it kind of makes me uncomfortable, the idea that someone would travel all that way for like a short coffee with me and then me being like, okay, thanks, bye. Because for him, he just needs to travel 5, 10 minutes to the cafe and then back again. Whereas with me, it's like an hour and 30 minutes minimum one way. So basically, and it kind of, I feel a bit like melancholy about the situation right now because it only ended like Sunday, like 2 days after Valentine's Day, after 4 months, because it just wasn't working out. Like, there's better options than me. You know, he's probably like, I was kind of still trying to go on dates as well because we are only dating. But anyway, that's kind of not related to the job, but you know, that's just how I'm feeling 2 years on, being unemployed. And yeah, my second point here on the notes was I just felt I missed out on life. Like, I love fashion. Like, this is like a nice Hollister leaf camel print. Got like grey corduroy flares on. And my wardrobe was full of really, really cool clothes that I was always wanting to wear, just doing my errands and living life and as an independent young adult in the city. But I never got to do that, to be honest. And with the way my life is going and the lack of success I've had with jobs, like, I haven't had an interview in like a year. So it's kind of like, when am I ever going to be able to wear these clothes? Like, when am I ever? And with that guy I was dating, it's like, I realized how different my life was to him. He was 5 years older than me. He was like 30, and I'm like 24 right now to be 25. But to me, it's kind of like I realize how different and how much I'm missing out on life living so remote and being unemployed. Like, when you live in a city and you're able to move out, you genuinely have different events you can go to every day. You can go and meet up with friends every day. You can go for lunch with someone and then go home. It doesn't feel like, because to me, you can say, oh, you can do that as well. Like, you can go and go have lunch with someone and leave. But it's like, I traveled all the way in here. Like, I want to do something a bit more, because it's like you'd much rather actually spend more time doing the thing you're traveling out to do than actually travel time. And with them, it's like they can do it because it's only like a 5 minute walk, or maybe like a subway trip. Whereas with me, it's like a full on adventure. So, and there just aren't the events here. You know, there aren't like painting classes, there aren't sculptor classes, there aren't cooking classes in the middle of nowhere. There isn't photography groups going around on a weekly basis, and there aren't all these little niche interests that you can do. And it's like, okay, like Y2K, which is like my username, I'm gonna try and like this. Y2K is like the nickname I'm gonna try and force on myself doing these videos. But basically, you could say, oh, well, you can do this. Like, you can go and like go to these things and just live remotely. Just live in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, yeah, I could do them, but I can't do any of the ones on a weekday because I would need to think about it. If there was a little like gaming night where gamers come together, I'm not a massive gamer by the way, but I'm just using this as an example. A little gaming night thing on a Wednesday in like a game shop, or like a Dungeons and Dragons thing on like a Wednesday night, for example. If I live in the city, I work my 9 to 5. I get in at like 5:20, and I can prepare dinner, or grab something, or deliver something in, or Uber Eats something, and like I can go to this thing for 7:30. So I've already rested, and now I get to do this thing. Whereas with me, it's like I do my 9 to 5 in the middle of nowhere, and then I get in at around 6 o'clock, because you got to wait for the bus. It's not like an instant thing. Like, okay, the bus is here now. Now I'm home. Wait for the bus until about 5:30. In for about 6 o'clock, and then again I need to account for the travel. So I need to literally rush without eating anything, get dressed, get properly looking good to meet a bunch of people new, fit for like then bus and then train and then travel to wherever this night is, do it for like 2 hours, and then like they can go out drinking or meet people after and stay really late. Whereas I would need to kind of account for my travel back, which is like, and it's later, and it's like the idea of the last train. Like the last train might be, they say it's like 11:30, but in reality that's always cancelled. So it's like more like 10:30 is the last train. And you see how forced these things are. And even if you meet friends in these places, because I have made some friendships on like dating apps where you try to make things work as friends, and what ends up happening is the days you're meant to meet, there's quite a lot of pressure on them because it's such a huge investment for me traveling in. Anyway, we're kind of rambling now at this point, but compared to like other things, no, I'm talking about my life frustrations and how a job isn't allowing me to live this life, and it's kind of a mix of those things. But it ends up, and it's like you can't just grab lunch with someone, grab a coffee, because it's like you've got to account for all of this and things need to be pre-planned. This is life for me, and it has been for the past 3 years. Last page of the notes. Let's see what it says. Yeah, so where am I going to go from here? Well, I've got my welfare appointment tomorrow at the welfare office, so I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to do some applications tonight. But the main thing regarding my job search is I basically decided to, because in hindsight, with my relationship breaking down with that guy, I realized my life is kind of shit and I'm totally lost in life and it's holding me back in so many different ways. And my whole strategy of just apply for jobs and time will change. And that's another thing I learned across these 2 years, these 3 years. The passage of time doesn't mean much. Like the passage of time just the passage of time doesn't guarantee change. You would think 3 years after graduation that I would have moved out, I would have a job and be in gainful employment that pays me enough to move out, and it hasn't. You would think every day, except the weekends, of applying for jobs, both entry level and related to my degree, would mean that I would be able to move out. It hasn't. I'm still in the exact same position I was before. So, with this all in mind, I'm just feeling totally lost and also the future as well. Like, why didn't I just go back to uni and go to college or something? Like, a huge point of me not doing that was because I already went to uni for 4 years. And it seems to me, with like the recent layoffs in computing and engineering, and it's very, very hard for graduates to really get graduate tier employment. I'm kind of disillusioned with all of that. Like what I'm kind of wanting to get is like an in-house work placement thing, like maybe like an apprenticeship thing for like adults, but they only do those for like 18 to 21-year-olds, and I'm 24, so who knows. But we're going to explore these options at a career centre. And I called up this morning and I said to them that I've been unemployed for 2 years and I don't know how I'm going to get a job or going to get any sort of career going for myself. And I want to get as much advice on what are my options, what can I do, and I'm happy to relocate anywhere, do anything as long as it leads to a stable career that pays me enough to move out. And even I'm not asking for a lot in life. That's the thing that pissed me off. I wasn't asking for a lot in life. I wanted to have a job and have enough money to move out, and that hasn't happened for me. So yeah, with this career appointment that's going to take place later in the week at this career centre, we are going to explore all my options, and I guess I'll keep you guys updated. But for the rest of the channel, gonna try and do just whatever I want to do. Like I kind of need to start doing videos, as I said, at this kind of near like the first half of this video that I'm doing. So these little vlog posts are for me for my YouTube, and as I get more comfortable with like video editing and audio editing and camera work, I'll do like more stuff. I kind of want to talk about my clothes and talk about dating and just have fun. You know, life's all about fun. I just want to enjoy myself now. I've been miserable for 3 years. Uh, Time to start living life, I think. But yeah, nice chatting to you guys, and see whatever you want in the comments. Um, I'm Y2K Fantasy, and this is my first video. See ya.